All right, Council members White and McDuffie, you've been joined by your colleague, Councilmember Henderson. We are now live on YouTube, and you may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, all. I'm Robert White, Council Member at Large and Chair of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. Today is Thursday, October 20th, 2022, and we are meeting remotely via the Zoom teleconferencing platform. The time is now 12:07 p.m. and I'm calling to order this joint public hearing of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities and the Committee on Business and Economic Development. My co-chair for this hearing is Councilmember Kenya McDuffie. Each of the two bills on today's agenda would take some real property that is owned by our local government and declare it surplus, which means that the land is no longer required for public purposes, such as a municipal office, school, or recreation center. Then each bill would approve a disposition of the land, which means conveying it into private control. In this case, the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, or DMPED, has worked out proposed 99-year leases, pursuant to which some joint venture entities will pay $1 per year and use the land to build various housing and retail spaces. Bill 24-953 deals with a portion of the former Malcolm X Elementary School campus in Ward 8. The district is retaining some of the campus for the Bard High School Early College project, but our focus today is a triangular area of about 46,000 square feet that DMPED and its private developer partners seek to turn into mixed-use residential, daycare, ANC office, and retail space. Bill 24-997 deals with 5 parcels on the Hill East campus in Ward 7, just west of the Anacostia River. This redevelopment is a long time coming. It's guided by a master plan that our government adopted nearly 20 years ago to coordinate the entire Hill East campus. The parcels that are issued today would become a condo building and several apartment buildings, totaling over 1,000 new residential units, plus retail space. Next week, Councilmember McDuffie will lead us in another joint hearing on a second bundle of Hill East parcels adjacent to this one. The reason Chairman Mendelson referred these bills to my committee is that we oversee the Department of General Services, which is generally charged with managing district real property. Under DC Code Section 10801, real property surplus decisions are supposed to be the subject of both a separate administrative hearing and a separate council resolution, and traditionally, the surplus resolution is referred to the committee overseeing DGS. Meanwhile, the disposition decision is traditionally referred to the committee overseeing DMPED. For these two development projects, the mayor has decided to ask the council to waive parts of 10801 rather than fully comply. The legislation before us therefore takes the form of 2 bills rather than 4 resolutions. The next step of each of these bills would be for my committee to hold a markup on the entire proposal, after which Councilmember McDuffie's committee would be free to take action and send it to the full council. Given my committee's traditional role of reviewing surplus resolutions, my primary focus today will be on the surplus determination of this bill. I have some concerns with the district's real property surplus process in general, and I will be introducing legislation later this month to both help make sure we're meeting our family housing goals and provide for a more reasonable, equitable approach to surplus determinations. I appreciate my colleague, Councilmember McDuffie, co-chairing today's hearing, and I'm confident he and his staff will lead us in a thorough evaluation of the disposition proposals as well. As a standard practice for the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities, today we will hear from all public witnesses, including the proposed private developers of both projects, then from advisory neighborhood commissioners, and then from government witnesses, namely the 2 DMPED teams that worked to prepare these bills. Before we get to public witnesses, though, let me turn it to Councilmember McDuffie, my co-chair for this hearing, for any opening remarks.
Thank you, and good afternoon again to you, Chairman Robert White. As you mentioned, I'm Councilmember Kenya McDuffie. I represent Ward 5 on the Council of the District of Columbia and also chair the Council's Committee on Business and Economic Development. And as noted, I have the privilege of co-chairing this hearing with you this afternoon. As you also mentioned, the first measure before us today would declare approximately 46,000 square feet of district-owned real property located at 1315 Alabama Avenue Southeast as no longer required for public purposes and approve its disposition pursuant to the requirements set out in DC Code 10-801. If approved, that development that's proposed for this property would result in a mixed-use building in Ward 8, which is slated to contain approximately 180 rental units of housing, all of which will be affordable units at 30, 50, and 60% of the median family income. The property would also include ground floor commercial space, including daycare, retail, and office for use by the ANC. And this redevelopment is proposed in order to provide a significant number of affordable residential units for district residents on land that is currently underutilized. The second measure before us, if approved, would declare as surplus and authorize the mayor to dispose of property known as parcels A, B1, B2, F2, and G2 of Hilly's Phase 2, Bundle 1, located at Independence Avenue Southeast and Massachusetts Avenue Southeast, east of 19th Street Southeast, and known for taxation purposes as a portion of Lot 0007 in Square 1112E. With respect to the ultimate development plans, the RFP required the developer to be community-focused requirements, including maximizing affordable housing, equity ownership, and majority control opportunities for disadvantaged business enterprises, include uses that are compatible and leverage surrounding neighborhood development, include a memorial to Robert F. Kennedy, as well as demonstrate responsiveness to community and stakeholder preferences, and a host of other things. Importantly, it's noteworthy that 3 years ago, I convened a meeting to discuss the landscape of the district and some of the things that I had been doing as chair of the Committee on Business and Economic Development in terms of implementing a racial equity agenda, including what that meant for dispositions of district-owned property for the purpose of development. And I convened a meeting with a number of minority developers and laid out a vision for equity RFP. The developers for both projects here today were selected under the equity RFP, which preferences the selection of qualified developers of color and requires substantial CBE and equity participation of developers and contractors of color. The equity RFP framework really prioritizes equity in shaping the landscape of our city, which I think is extraordinarily important. I've worked directly with the mayor and the deputy mayor for planning and economic development and his team to identify opportunities to try to put more of a racial equity lens into practice through the work of DMPED when it comes to these types of dispositions, as well as grants and other opportunities. And so I'm pleased to see that these two projects have been awarded under that framework. My focus during today's hearing will be to ensure that the proposed dispositions meet the requirements set forth in both the district CBE and property disposition laws. And so I look forward to hearing from the witnesses today. And I want to thank you again, Chairman White, for agreeing to have this joint hearing. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Councilmember McDuffie. And I know there we are, Councilmember Henderson. Welcome. Do you have an opening statement?
Thank you so much, Councilmember White and Councilmember McDuffie, for holding this joint hearing. Look at us doing things efficiently, holding a hearing together. I'm interested in both of these projects, and what kind of caught my eye when we saw the legislation come down for the disposition, in particular for the Malcolm X, is that I believe this location is going to be next to a school or is on land that will be shared with the school. So I'm curious in terms of how DMPED and other government agencies are sort of thinking that through. And I think it's Bard Early College High School is going to be either sharing part of this land or immediately next door. And so just ensuring that we're thinking about that going forward in terms of a mixed use property next to a high school. And then, of course, we've been talking about the Hilly's, formerly known as Reservation 13 project, I think for many, many years in the district. And And so I just have some questions in terms of as we prepare for these dispositions. And so I appreciate the witnesses for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. We'll now turn to our public witnesses. Everyone should have received a copy of the witness list on Friday. I'll call witnesses in the order that they appear on the list. When I call you, the staff will promote you to a panelist so that you can testify. When you are promoted, you're going to drop out of the hearing momentarily and return as a panelist, at which time you'll be able to unmute yourself. Public witnesses will have 4 minutes to testify. Advisory neighborhood commissioners will have 5 minutes to testify. And we're going to call all of our public witnesses at once. Omar Kareem, development partner with Congress Park Community Partners. Brian Irving with Blue Sky Construction. Christopher Donatelli with President and CEO of Donatelli Development. Brian Rogers with Donatelli Development. Rebecca Hill with St. Coletta. Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner Joel Keston, ANC 7F07, and Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner Tyrell Holcomb, ANC 7F01, and Chair of ANC 7F. Now, before we turn to our public witnesses, I see my colleague, Councilmember Trayon White. Councilmember White, do you have an opening statement?
I do, but I'm still in a hearing that I'm chairing, so if you can give me about 4 minutes, after this panel, I'll be able to speak.
And
Thank you.
Department website. This transparency.
And then we will start with our public witnesses, and so we'll turn first to Omar Kareem. Welcome.
Welcome. Before I begin, I just want to make a quick note that the testimony that I'm presenting is slightly different from the testimony that was submitted yesterday to try to get the timing under 5 minutes. So good afternoon, Chairman McDuffie, Chairman White, Councilman Henderson, and Councilman Trayon White, Sr. Affordable housing is the most critical issue facing capital cities all over the world today. I'm Omar Kareem, President of Banneker Communities, a CBD development and construction firm, and I'm pleased to be here to discuss how we hope to partner with the district to help solve this issue. As background, I hold both a BS degree in mechanical engineering and Juris Doctor degree from Howard University, where I also served on the university's Board of Trustees. For nearly 20 years, we have been helping to solve the affordable housing problem and other critical issues in our city and region. Our company is currently developing 1,600 units of affordable and workforce housing and retail in the region. I'm pleased to represent Congress Park Community Partners to testify in support of B240953, the Malcolm X Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act of 2022. If this act is approved, the development that we have proposed would transform 1 acre of land into a beautiful mixed-use building containing approximately 180 all-affordable apartments consisting of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units with ground floor commercial space, including a 7,500 square feet community serving daycare center, 2,000 square feet of community serving retail space, a healthy food retailer, and parking. 100% of the apartments will be available for households earning 60% or less of AMI. The development is a thoughtful response to significant community input and engagement over the past 2 years, including meetings with Ward 8 Councilman Trayon White Sr., ANC 8E, community groups, and direct community engagement by going door to door in the neighborhood. The community engagement resulted in a unanimous vote by ANC 8E to support our development team to develop this site and a unanimous vote by ANC 8E to approve the CBA. It also resulted in nearly 100 residents submitting letters of support to the Zoning Commission to support a change in the zoning of the site, and over 50 letters of support for the approval of the surplus and disposition of the property as part of today's joint hearing. This engagement resulted in a residential program that includes 44% of the apartments being family size, consisting of 2 and 3 bedroom apartments. The unit mix includes 40 apartments that are 3 bedrooms, 40 apartments that are 2, 65 apartments that are 1 bedrooms, and 35 studios. 25% of the units would be for residents who earn at or below 30% MFI. 42% will be for residents who earn at or below 50% MFI, and 33% of the units will be for residents who earn at or below 60%. At the current HUD rates, residents can rent a studio on the Roll-Ark for as little as $680 a month, a one-bedroom for as little as $720 a month, a two-bedroom for as little as $850 a month, and a three-bedroom for as little as $1,010 a month. We intend to prioritize some of the units for teachers and educators. Community space amenities are anticipated to include a fitness room, community room, courtyard, on-site property management staff, electric vehicle charging station, and bike racks. The project will be named the Wilhelmina Roll-Ark at Congress Heights Metro, named after Wilhelmina Roll-Ark, who represented Ward 8 on the Council of the District of Columbia for 16 years. The Roll-Ark will be of high architectural design quality, led by Moody Nolan, the largest African-American-owned architect firm in the country. We intend to feature sustainable designs to meet LEED Silver certification. Our team's priority is to ensure significant public benefits, specifically for Ward 8 residents and businesses, with opportunities for meaningful participation throughout all phases of the development through the award of jobs and contracts. Our goal is to award 50% of the contract dollars to Ward 8 and district-based minority-owned companies and 75% of new hires to Ward 8 and district residents. The majority of the development team is based in Ward 8, and several members of the team are based in Congress Heights. One of the things that we are most proud of is the innovative equity sharing across the development team to include returning citizens among our development partners. Our CBE and DBE equity ownership is 70% of the total. Prior to construction starting, we will conduct small business and capacity building training workshops, as well as job fairs for Congress Park, Ward 8, and district businesses and residents. Once construction is complete, we intend to support Ward 8 and district residents with nearly $1 million in annual new wages and contracts to support stabilized operations. After tenants move in, we will continue to support the community and the new tenants by conducting workshops around financial literacy, household budgeting, and financial planning. Thank you for your time this afternoon. We appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Let me do this. I know Councilmember Trayon White is juggling multiple hearings. So let me allow Councilmember Trayon White to make an opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman. And also the witnesses today. I want to thank you, Councilman White, for holding this public hearing on the Malcolm X Surplus Declaration Disposition Approval Act of 2022. Affordable housing is key to stability for families, diversifying communities, and contributing to the overall well-being of people. We know that we need some new things to happen in our ward because we are in what we call a housing crisis. The Malcolm X Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act and the Hill East Phase 2 Bundle 1 Surplus Declaration is a step forward to improving affordable options for our residents, which ranks among cities, highest cost cities in America. Mixed-use buildings that promote up to 3 bedrooms of affordable rental units is healthy for the community. We're seeing a lot of 1, 2 bedrooms and lofts, but we know Black and brown families historically have more than 2 people living in their homes. This proposed development resulted from Malcolm X Surplus Declaration, which will offer affordable housing, commercial space, and to accommodate businesses and thereby provide employment opportunities. We've been in conversation with the developer over this couple of months and about a year or so. I'm hopeful that this legislation today will pass and will execute the project and will benefit our city, especially some of the most vulnerable units in the Ward 7 and Ward 8 for prospective properties. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councilmember White. Our next public witness will be Brian Irving.
Thank you. We will hear now from Miss.
There we are. And we got to unmute you, Mr. Irving.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, that was on me. I apologize. Good morning, Chairman McDuffie and Chairman White, thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of B 240997. My name is Brian Scotty Irvin. I'm the president and CEO of Blue Sky Development and Blue Sky Construction. I'm a Ward 1 resident and a proud Washingtonian. Blue Sky Development and Donatelli Development, along with our CBE partners, are pleased to present our Hillies Development Bundle 1 Development Plan in collaboration with DMPAD in the community, in keeping with the Hillies Master Plan with the support of ANC 7F. Our plan for these parcels offer a clear vision that will build upon the equity development of phase 1 of Hillies and maximizing the district affordable housing goals, objectives, job creations, wealth build for local businesses, and creating a new neighborhood in the entire community and serving the entire community. Before describing the project for Bundle 1, I would like to explain why this project is so important to me and Mr. Donatelli. 17 years ago, I started this company by carrying on my family tradition of developing real estate by DC residents for DC residents. The lesson passed on to me from my grandfather and then my mother is developing vibrant spaces for DC residents to live, work, shop, and play is important. But success is defined by the overall positivity impact that we have in terms of creating jobs, opportunity for minority business to scale up, which creates a pathway to the middle class and DC residents, and also for DC residents to live in beautiful, safe, affordable housing. Chris Donatelli, the principal of Donatelli LLC, and my partner on Bundle 1 share this approach and this commitments to DC. The project plan includes our team share the district vision of providing quality, affordable housing to its residents, and we are proud our development plan exceed the requirement of DC Code 10801 and the AWI. We are building 1,068 units. 1/3 of those units will be set aside for families at 30% and 50% AMI. Another 1/3 will be reserved for middle income families. In total, our plans call for 712 income restricted units and the final 1/3 market rate units. This is truly a mixed income development project that everyone can call home. The development is co-owned 50-50 by Blue Sky Development and Donatelli Development. Our partners is committed to achieve our CBA contracting and our first source requirements, as we have done on phase 1. Our CBA contracted partner from parcel G1 and parcel F1 is also engaged in this project, GTMDC Architects. We have a diverse group of women leading this design on Bundle 1. We are also proud that we have hired 19 CBE and SBE firms and employed 100 residents on the building of Park Kennedy in the Ethel. We are also proud that we have spent $6 million with CBE and SBE firms owned by returning citizens. We are also proud that we have spent $30 million with companies owned by women. That fact is important to highlight because the data shows that those are the companies or entrepreneurs and businesses that pull from the local workforce, employ majority of the middle class. We have designed this project for Bundle 1 to fit into the existing context of Hillies in Capitol Hill. For instance, this project followed the Hillies Water Design Guidelines and Master Plan along with the zoning text. And because of our experience in Bundle 1, we look forward to incorporating phase 1. We look forward to incorporating Bundle 1 into now the existing Hillies. We look forward to working with the council, DMPAD, government agencies, St. Coletta, and other communities, and as well as Hillies. That concludes my speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chris Donatelli, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Council Members White and McDuffie. I'll just continue here to describe our building amenities will include landscape courtyards, a rooftop lounge with pool, neighborhood serving retail, and a memorial to Robert F. Kennedy that will honor his pursuit of racial equity, economic justice, and affordable housing. We anticipate attracting restaurants, eateries, and small grocers to the 25,000 square feet of neighborhood serving retail, including space to program human capital services. The transit-oriented community will offer residents a walkable and pedestrian-friendly neighborhood experience with an attractive streetscape design that includes lighting that enhances safety and bolsters placemaking, landscape frontages, residential stoops like neighboring row homes, shade tree lined streets and sidewalk, and plantings throughout for year-round seasonal interest. We are also committed to the district's climate goals. The development plan will meet a minimum of LEED Silver certification by incorporating solar, building electrification, EV charging, battery storage, and other energy efficiencies. The project will also include sustainable public greening, including bioretention gardens, wide green frontages, and planted courtyards and green roofs. We have designed the project for Bundle 1 to fit within the context of Capitol Hill and the Hill East neighborhoods. For instance, the project follows the Reservation 13 Hill East waterfront design guidelines and master plan, along with the zoning text. And because of our experience developing phase 1, we look forward to knitting phase 2 Bundle 1 into the existing fabric that now exists at Reservation 13. We look forward to working collaboratively with the council, DEMPED, district agency, St. Coletta, and the community in executing the equitable development of these parcels. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Rogers, are you with us?
Yeah, Brian is here, but he does not have any further testimony. He's also with Donatelli Development.
Okay. Rebecca Hill?
Good afternoon, Chairman McDuffie, Chairman White, Councilwoman Henderson, and Councilman Trayon White. My name is Rebecca Hill, and I'm the Chief of External Affairs for St. Coletta of Greater Washington. St. Coletta operates St. Coletta Special Education Public Charter School, which sits on Reservation 13 at the corner of 19th Street and Independence Avenue Southeast. We educate 250 of the district's most disabled and vulnerable students, ranging in age 3 through 22. According to the agreement we signed with the city when we constructed the building in 2004, we have use of the surface parking lot adjacent to the school building. The agreement also states that when the plot was developed in the future, St. Coletta would be given the same amount of parking in the new development. Donatelli Blue Sky has reached out to us about the parking, and we have discussed where the new parking would be and the fact that we would need interim parking during construction. In addition, we have discussed the need to accommodate the roughly 40 buses that transport students to and from St. Coletta and will affect traffic flow on 20th Street and Independence Avenue twice a day. We have a good working relationship with Donatelli Blue Sky and are supportive of their proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Joel Castone.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chairman Robert and Chairman McDuffie and all in attendance today. As I look over the document we are on review today, many of that predated me as being the sitting SMD commissioner here in Hill East or 7F07. However, I stand in solidarity with my commission. I had the opportunity to meet Brian and Chris on the scene, on the facility, particularly the Ethel facility that will house our women who are currently being held at the Harriet Tubman Women's Shelter. I spoke with a number of these women when they are commuting back from the shelter to their different locations. They are excited. I was pleased to be able to share with them there will be a number of beds, 100 rooms for 100 women. 100 rooms for 100 women. That notion right there brought joy to what I would call Lady Luck, a lady I met yesterday. She was walking cold and she looked to be kind of lost. And I stopped and let her know who I was, and I shared with her what's taking place in the community. This is the work that Chris and Scotty is doing. Brian Irving, they are doing great work in the community. I just want to make sure that my voice is heard. The constituents here in Park Kennedy overwhelmingly support what's going on here. I've been holding impromptu, I guess you could say, listening sessions People have been speaking over and over about their delight, about the great work that's going on. So I simply want to come here today and give support for the approval of this initiative. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And our final public witness is Commissioner Tyrell Holcomb. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairperson White, Chairperson McDuffie, Councilmember Trayon White, and Councilmember Councilmember Henderson. I am honored to have the opportunity to share this afternoon in relation to this particular development. Since joining the commission in 2017, Blue Sky Development, Donatelli Development have been wonderful partners for us here in ANC 7F, contributing to a number of matters in our community, from back to school events to our young people going to college, to our seniors in our community during the COVID-19 pandemic, and eager to see this project continue to move forward. Specifically, I want to note from a letter that ANC 7F shared with DMPED, matters that this particular development for phase one, we believe has at its core job creation, creating opportunities for our community members to ensure that they have meaningful, gainful employment, pre-construction, during construction, and post-construction. What the impact of this development will do as it relates to future economic development opportunities, as well as bringing new retail, restaurants, amenities to our community. The opportunities for our business owners in our community to be able to benefit in that process of construction, but then also the opportunities that will come post-construction. And then lastly, that opportunity for all phases of housing, from affordable to workforce, market, as well as the opportunities to own on this particular site. And we're excited about these opportunities that will come. I do want to make mention that the commission is in full support of the project as it has already been presented and voted on at the commission and before the community. And we look forward to seeing this project move forward as already presented before the community without any changes as it already has been presented. And again, continue to look forward to the opportunity to partner with Blue Sky Development and Donatelli Development as it relates to partnerships in our community moving forward. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me jump into questions, and Councilmember McDuffie, are you okay with 7-minute rounds? Okay. Is there a connection between Harriet Tubman Shelter and the Hill East project?
Yes, it is. The Ethel will be moving the women that's in the dormitory style apartments to the Ethel, which is 100 units of permanent placement housing. So for some of these women, they will get their first apartment ever. The Harriet Tubman is a dormitory style. So this is why that project was so important, and why Chris and I, when it was presented to us from DMPED, this opportunity to reduce the homeless and move them into a situation where they will have a hair salon, cooking classes, and other ways to get their self-employed was so critical. So Chris and I jumped on this project right from the jump.
Okay. How do you, for that, there's a significant amount of affordability in this project, which I really respect and appreciate. And I'll talk about that likely with DMPED. But how on a project like this that is so significantly subsidized, how do you factor in maintenance over time, 10 years, 20 years from now?
Yeah, so in most cases, and when you see the lineup, 4 or 5% of all revenue will be set aside for that. So we know the issues that's out there, that right from the jump, we will start maintaining the systems from the beginning, and dollars will be used, 4, 5, or 8% of the total revenue will be used for maintaining these buildings over the lifetime of them.
For Commissioner Holcomb and Commissioner Caston, how do you determine that a private development is best for the Hill East site as opposed to a library or a government office building or another public use?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I'll take the first response at it. I think when you think about, for me as a lifelong resident of Ward 7, when I think about the opportunities from a development perspective that we've seen here in Ward 7, they've been very far and few in between. And here most recently over the last 10 years or so, we've seen a great opportunity as it relates to development opportunities that uplift the community in ways that are impactful beyond that particular construction time period. And so I think the way that we thought about it as a commission and community was to engage development teams who had interest in our community. And so we met with each of the teams as a commission, as well as invited them to be a part of the community and present before the community and had the community weigh in. One of the things that we actually did when I first became chair of the commission, and we've done consistently each year, is ask community members, what their priorities are as it relates to what's happening in the community from a development perspective and what they desire to see. And that wasn't one of the things that we heard in terms of, seeing additional government buildings or additional libraries built. The city has done a wonderful job, I believe, of investing dollars as it relates to building and redeveloping our local libraries in our communities. And so I think people see that investment that has already been had. And I think in terms of the government buildings that we've already seen here, and even specifically in 7F, we have the DGS building that is currently under construction, and then we also have the Department of Employment Services on Minnesota Avenue as well. And so I think when you take those two things in factor in consideration in the community and the commission, I think that we thought that it was a best opportunity in relation to future opportunities the community could benefit from, as well as those amenities. And I want to make this last point. One of the things that came up in the redistricting earlier this year was, community members said that redistricting was an opportunity to get new amenities in the community. And I emphatically pushed back on that and said that that is not the way that we should be thinking about getting new amenities, specifically in Ward 7. It should be that we have the same opportunities that they have in Wards 2 and Ward 3 to have redevelopment and developments built to bring new amenities to our community. And so I think all of that said and combined, I think those were the factors that the commission and community took in consideration in thinking that this was the best use and opportunity for our community.
Thank you. Commissioner Caston?
Yeah, I concur with Chairman Holcomb, but I will also add sweat equity. Brian's testimony said it all. He spoke about his upbringing, keeping the legacy of his grandfather alive. When I met with him and Chris, and seeing how these guys are the message that they bring, that's the evaluation, that's the measuring stick right there. Are you delivering? We can hide behind big words and fancy numbers and things of that nature, but do you truly care about the community? This is the evaluation method. And so when I look at that engagement, being up and close with these guys and seeing and having that tough conversations, asking those tough questions, but more importantly, seeing what they're doing and not simply what they're saying. That's a personal evaluation method that I like to use. But in overall and in general, concurring complete with the Chairman Holcomb just stated.
I appreciate it. Let me go to the other project with Mr. Karim. You mentioned that you went door to door. Why did you go door to door? And how, if at all, did that impact what you determined to build?
Thank you, Chairman White. I've been going door to door since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. My dad had me out knocking on doors and engaging the community. And it's just who we are. Like, the best way to engage and find out what people want is to go and find out what they want. And no better way to do that than to go knock on doors, even during the middle of COVID. So our development team and our partners on that team are from the Congress Heights community, Monica Ray and Finest Jones and others who've been working in these communities for so long. And when we began talking to people, we wanted to get right to them. We went to the ANC, right? We went to the council, Councilman Trayon White Sr., of course, and we thought it was important for us to go and do this. And we've done this before, right? So other successful projects in the district, we've knocked on doors and it begins to get support. And you find out what the neighborhood wants, and you find out what the community wants, and you begin to improve what you think that you might intuitively know what should be somewhere. But it was just a great opportunity for us to zero in on family style units, zero in on some of the ground floor commercial space. What we heard is that the community really wanted a childcare center. So we were able to program the space and bring a childcare center to the community.
I appreciate it. Let me turn to my co-chair, Councilmember McDuffie.
Thank you, Chairman White. And thank you to each of the witnesses for their testimony. I want to start out my questions. I feel like you all talked about in your testimony, both the developers, how you engage, but I think it's worth talking a little bit more about that. And then I'm going to turn to the ANC commissioners. Actually, let me start with the ANC commissioners. I want to get your sense about the engagement process by each of the well, let's talk about Hillies. And I'll start with Mr. Holcomb and then Mr. Castone. How would you gauge the type of engagement that would occur with this particular project?
Yeah, so I would say I served, kind of in a sense of shadow commissioner in a sense prior to Commissioner Castone coming on the commission, as there was no commissioner for the district. But I, as the chairperson, kind of provided coverage on matters that came up for the district, as well as, relied on one of my other colleagues on the commission as well. I think one of the things that was important for me and that stood out about the way that the approach was taken in relation to the development is that Donatelli and Blue Sky have partnered on a number of projects that have already occurred in 7F, and opposed to them, relying on that previous relationship or relying on the work that they already had done. They reached out to myself as well as the other commissioners to want to have conversation, invited them to the building to be able to take a look at what had already been done at the newer building on Hill East. We've been a part of, the matters that have happened in relation to the development that's going on now with the Ethel as well. And so I think for me, from the vantage point that I see it, is that they didn't take advantage of the advantage they had in sense of, there's already a relationship that exists, but really making sure that they did their due diligence to come to the commission as well as to the community to have conversation. And so I think that's one of the things that I greatly appreciated.
And do you feel like those conversations and that experience engaging with the developer is reflected in the proposal that is before the council currently?
Oh, absolutely. And I would even say that, previous developments that have happened that occurred prior to me even joining the commission, one of the things that we heard from community members is that they wanted to see opportunities for workforce housing. They wanted to see opportunities for, not just 1 and 2 bedrooms, that they wanted to see opportunities for 3 bedrooms. And so I think some of those pieces that we wanted to see 5 or 10 years ago, when Blue Sky and Donatelli were focused on development opportunities then, and that even though they couldn't deliver in those particular moments, I think they took that in consideration and utilizing this as the opportunity to be able to deliver on those things.
Okay. Commissioner Castone?
Yes, sir. As Chairman Holcomb stated, many of these initiatives predated me. You all very well know my story. It was vacant prior to me assuming the position of tenant as a commissioner here in 7F 307. So I walked under the footsteps that he pretty much set the tone there. But as I referenced in the first part of my testimony today, I had the opportunity to walk the grounds of the Ethel. And to me, seeing that, looking Chris, looking Brian in the eyes, and having that tough conversation, what does it mean reaching our most vulnerable population, those those ladies, those families who are inside the Harriet Tubman Women's Shelter? I just came back from DC jail yesterday, and I made it my business to go and visit the women that are housed there. Our women are not receiving the same fair share as their male counterparts. It's the truth. And I've seen that firsthand in the inside. So when those guys were sharing with me how invigorated they are about bringing forth that initiative, the Ethel, to bring hope to these ladies, now we're getting somewhere.
Right. I appreciate that. Let me turn to the development. We can turn first to Malcolm X. So just ask a couple of questions about Hill East. If you could, Mr. Kareem, talk about how you engage the community with respect to your proposed development, and also what further engagement you plan to do along the way, assuming that this project is surplus and disposed of by the council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we talked a little bit during our testimony about going door to door, a meeting with Councilman White, meeting with ANCAD, other community groups. Some of the things we haven't talked about is a lot of other engagement that we've had right there at the site. So we've given away hundreds of bikes to the community and scooters when people were inside, and when the city, the council and the mayor's office was trying to get people outside. We thought one of the things that we could do is help get people out and active. So we spend money and purchase bikes and scooters or other things like that. Other things we did, one of the things that we heard from the community is that the community wanted to have opportunities to go outside, the youth, to get outside of the Congress Park community. So we sponsor youth excursions outside of the district so they could get away for the weekend. We've paid for turkeys during the holidays. Right before school start, we just gave out hundreds of backpacks and school supplies in connection with Councilman White, who I was mentioning yesterday was probably the last person there. He stayed even longer than we did on site, which I really appreciate his partnership and his office's partnership working in the community, right? We get calls all the time to support various different efforts in the Congress Park community. And we, stand up and support those things. And I was mentioning to one of the councilmen yesterday, we can't get asked enough as a partner who working in these communities for enough. You can't call my phone enough. You can't call our partners' phones enough, and we can't give and support our community enough. So, and we'll continue to. We'll spend $1 billion worth of operations money once we stabilize the asset as well.
Let me jump in because my time is winding down in this round. I wanted to ask about the equity RFP, which I think you and Mr. Irvin know is extraordinarily important to me, and was an initiative that I really helped to bring about. And both of these projects were awarded under that. Can you talk a little bit about the makeup of your teams, each of you, in terms of the equity, and then talk about First Source and the plans for just making sure that you can hire folks as well?
Sure, very quickly. Our team,
keep it brief,
CBE and DBE participation, Ward 8-based firms, as well as a nonprofit 501c3 that's based in Congress Heights. And we intend on exceeding the First Source requirements. We intend on awarding 50% of the contract dollars to Ward 8 and district-based minority-owned companies. And Scotty.
Thank you. Briefly, Mr. Irvin.
Yeah, so what we have done is we will continue to exceed the First Source and exceed the CBE requirements. But the way that we do it, we make sure we go to firms that's owned by returning citizens, because we know as young men come home or young ladies come home, they will be hiring from the community that they know, and that's important to us. We also spend close to $30 million or more than $30 million with women-owned firms. I believe that this RFP, we are the first ones to enter it. It was necessary. It was long overdue. When we look at development deals and how 90-some% of our land went to non-developers of color, that this opportunities for all of us give us a chance to somewhat level the playing field. And if we at the 10-yard line with 99 or 90 yards to go, we have made it to the first 10 yards. This is just only the first 10 yards of where we need to go. And we are thankful for these opportunities and look forward to more opportunities like this to be in the pipeline, hopefully soon.
And thank you each for your testimony. Chairman White.
Thank you, Chairman McDuffie. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you to all of the witnesses who testified today. I'll start with the Hillies project first. And just for clarification, Mr. Irving, on that one, because I can't quite tell from the map, does this parcel also include the parking lot, what is it called? Parking lot 8 on the closest to the river, or does it stop right before that?
Chris, you want to take that?
It does not include that area, Councilmember Henderson.
Okay. I was a little bit hopeful that maybe we're gonna start getting rid of some of these surface parking lots over there.
Not yet.
Can you talk though a little bit about in terms of how you all are envisioning, because I think this parcel runs up against a DC water pump site on the eastern side, how you all are planning to, I guess, incorporate or not, or even make some sort of access point in terms of a trail to the riverfront.
Sure, I can address that. The bundle one parcels do not go down that far to the east. So we're doing the parcels that are really more directly behind the existing phase one buildings that we completed. So the first parcel we're doing is parcel B.
Got it. Okay.
Is in part St. Coletta's, is a portion of St. Coletta's parking lot right now.
That's the one right on Independence.
That's the one, exactly, right on Independence. That's the one that for which we're providing replacement parking for St. Coletta. And then we have parcel A, which is kind of a smaller one that we're programming as for sale housing. And then parcel F2 is directly behind what's been referred to earlier in the testimony as the Ethel building. And then G2 is behind our existing Park Kennedy building that we developed also as part of phase one.
Got it. Okay. Are all of these buildings vacant currently? Or all of the parcels vacant?
Yes, the parcels are, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you all have already, I think Ms. Hill is still on. You all already have a signed agreement around the parking situation for St. Coletta's?
Yes, that's.
Yes, we discussed it. It's in their agreement originally with the city that Chris is well aware of.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we have met, over the years, we've met with St. Coletta's quite a bit because that phase one buildings, the G1 and F1 are directly
right next to them as well.
Yeah, right next to them. So yeah, we've been talking about the parking, and we are going to give them replacement parking within our B1 building.
Okay. And to what extent have you all engaged the residents already that's in the G1, or sorry, what is it called? The park? Is that Park Kennedy, excuse me, that building, about the upcoming construction? Because I can already see the emails that are going to be coming about the construction.
We understand that, and Commissioner Caston is a resident there, and yeah, we have had conversations with the residents there. We're going to start on the other side of the site for whatever that's worth, but we're going to start at B. But yes, we have the residents there are aware of what we're planning for bundle one, and I think that they're supportive given the fact that they're staring at a bunch of empty lots, and we intend to bring retail and other amenities to the neighborhood.
Right. Okay. And what I don't know if you've all have forecasted in terms of timeline when you plan to bring on the Ethel building online.
Well, the Ethel building is just a few months away from.
Within the next 60 days, hopefully, I think, right, Chris?
Yeah, we're very close to completing that building.
Okay. And then for the other, I think you said you're starting with C.
Yeah, so there's some infrastructure work that needs to occur, and then we're gonna start soon thereafter. So we're probably about, we've gotten underway with some initial planning, and we're about 18 months from breaking ground.
And that's B1 and B2, not C. We're starting with B.
Oh, you're starting with B, not C. Okay.
Yes, B1 and B2.
Okay. Man, these old maps, but thank you. I appreciate that. Mr. Kareem, in terms of the project over at Malcolm X, I'm curious in terms of the conversations you all have had with DCPS, considering, at least in my understanding, your development is literally going to be next to a existing school.
Absolutely, and that's what really creates such a special project. The school, the new bar school, and the DGS built all new public facilities, a track, basketball courts and all of those things like that. And to be able to create housing for the teachers who, and educators who will be at that school and the surrounding schools is something that the community thought was very important. And we're excited to be delivering on such a project like that. It's a special opportunity for us.
Yeah, I in sort of reading a little bit in terms of your plans for this, I was intrigued by the inclusion of a daycare center, because we know that that's always a struggle in terms of folks finding space. And so I imagine that you all, I'm not sure, but in terms, are you going to do like a RFP or something in terms of finding an operator for that space?
We already have one.
Oh, you have one. Okay.
Yeah, we're super excited. They're taking the majority of the ground floor space there. And we've already began programming with them and how the site will look and operate and drop off and pick up. And it's really exciting.
Okay. Is this building also, so I didn't see it mentioned, will it also include parking, underground parking?
Yeah, yes.
How many spaces?
Over 40 parking spaces
40.
in the program. And we're right at the metro as well, right? So
right.
It's a TOD project, and everybody is exciting. The ANC thinks that's the appropriate number of parking spaces, and so do we.
Okay. I have to ask this, putting on sort of my T&E hat on. Will you also have electric vehicle charging?
Yes. Yes, I own an EV. I drive an EV every day.
Okay, all right. They were awesome. All right, I'm over my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Is Councilmember Trayon White with us? Let me ask one question and turn to my colleague, Councilmember Allen, because I forgot to ask it earlier. It sounded clear, but I want to make sure parking for St. Coletta's, you're going to be able to work that out. Let me ask Mr. Irving.
Yes, we've been communicating with St. Coletta over these years. I think 7 years now or before, since Park Kennedy. So this has been a long, ongoing relationship and understanding of what's necessary. And I do see those 40 buses coming out on D Street, turning the corner onto 19th Street. I have even recorded them leaving D Street, going to 19th Street, just for a shared community video. So I understand the importance of what they need.
All right, I appreciate that. Let me turn to my colleague, Councilmember Allen.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to be here. I've missed some of the previous conversations. So first off, let me just go ahead and apologize in advance in case I ask some questions that have already gone over. But briefly, I am excited about some of the next steps. Obviously, we want to make sure we do our due diligence, but the potential for expanding and extending the neighborhood of Hill East has been one that we have struggled for decades, frankly, to get moving. And the community wants and deserves to make sure that we are creating more housing, creating more jobs, right on top of Metro, to be able to have transit-oriented type of development, reconnecting all the way down to the river and bring the Anacostia and reconnect that back to the community. So it takes longer than I would love for it to take. It'll happen in phases overall, but I am excited about what's coming. I've had a chance to talk a little bit with Mr. Irving and Mr. Donatelli to kind of go through some of the details of their proposal. We'll kind of use the hearing as a chance to rehash a little bit of that, just to make sure it's a part of the record. But overall, I think that you've got a Hill East community that people are excited about seeing the continued growth that's coming in. Mr. Irving and Mr. Donatelli and anybody else who wants to jump in, one of the things that I think has been a consistent ask, as it were, from the ANC, from ANC 6B, from the neighbors and community, is recognizing this great potential to grow more neighborhood, grow more city, frankly, but also to make sure we're doing it in a way that helps communities be able to also age in their community. So, adjacent to this area, predominantly we're talking row houses, right? 3 stories. And there will come a day for myself as well when I probably can't go up and down the stairs as much as I do today and as easily as I do today. But as we think about our neighbors, they never want to leave this community. They're born and raised in generations here, but there will be times when they've got to think about additional services that can help make sure they can stay in their community, different types of housing so that we have one level living. In what ways have you kind of thought about that? Are you going to help meet some of those needs, you think, with this project? We're going to ask you to meet a lot of different needs, but that's one of them, is to make sure this is a space that it can be thoughtful for neighbors that are aging, but don't ever want to leave their community, but maybe can find a new home.
Yes, thanks, Councilmember Allen. And as we discussed yesterday, we share your concerns, and we see this as an opportunity to meet those concerns. Obviously, with the multifamily buildings that we're proposing, this is will certainly be more convenient and more appropriate living space than someone who has difficulty getting up and down stairs and elderly. And then we want to keep the conversation, we want to keep the dialogue open as it relates to, providing services, be it, I think we discussed yesterday as it being a, great opportunity within some of the first floor retail spaces to, provide services to seniors. So, we look forward to talking. I think you mentioned one of your nonprofit groups there in Capitol Hill that specializes in senior services. We'd be more than willing to meet with them and talk to them and see how we can provide those services to address those concerns.
Great. I appreciate it. I think as we think about, to your point around that first floor retail mix, certainly excited to have new restaurant options and other spaces like that are dining, entertainment, but then also, kind of that service delivery. I think that's one of the things that'll help make sure that, we really are continuing to grow this space in a way that fits all our neighbors. Mr. Irving, you talked about the buses at St. Coletta, and I appreciate hearing that obviously a strong partnership is going to have to be there with St. Coletta. I was going to ask if you could just touch on this briefly. You kind of sparked my memory on this a little bit. During the construction of essentially the phase that is there, from time to time, we'd run into challenges with construction vehicles coming through the residential neighborhoods. We know, obviously, whenever there's construction, it does create an inconvenience and can create pressure points on the surrounding community, but we want to do everything we can to manage that. Can you talk any more about either construction management agreements that you're setting up or the conversations you'll have with the ANCs to really work out that type of, ideally, it never happens. And so we never have that construction truck or dump truck through a neighborhood, but occasionally it may happen. And in what ways we create points of accountability and contact to make sure that if there is a problem, we can get it fixed pretty quickly.
Okay, so we will come up with a pre-construction plan and then follow that pre-construction traffic plan. Like we did on the first phase, but occasionally some trucks did slip through. And what Tom McCullen did, the CBE firm, he had those drivers removed from driving to that site. So we'll be as strict at that. If a driver can't follow the route to the site for their delivery, they'll no longer be a part of the delivery team for that site. I also reached out to Francis yesterday, who was a Ward 6 resident, who's now a Ward 7 resident. So Francis and I will continue to evolve that conversation on the help we will need from him in making sure that early in the morning that someone's out and someone will be making phone calls to us to keep us, in tune to what's going on. So I have already started those conversations on 2 or 3 different fronts with Francis.
That's fantastic. I mean, if you can keep Francis Campbell happy, you're halfway there. So that's great. No, Francis Campbell is a longtime ANC commissioner of the neighborhood, a big supporter and partner with St. Coletta's. So it sounds like you were talking to the right person to make sure that we work through that. Last question as my time just kind of ticks down. And again, I think we talked about this briefly yesterday, but as we're thinking about the housing mix, I'm sure there's going to be a good amount of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms. I know are sometimes at a premium, but they're also one of the highest demand to make sure we're creating family style housing that can accommodate families. How are you envisioning, and you may not have the exact numbers yet, but how are you envisioning 3 or more bedroom units as a part of the overall phase?
Yeah, that was a comment and that we heard from the community, and we increased our count for 3-bedroom units to, I think we have about 30 or so planned right now, and we'll try to increase that as we go forward.
Great. And are all those, is that mixed from an income perspective, or are all the 3 bedrooms of the market rate?
Oh no, they're all mixed from an income perspective.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Well, I know my time is up, so I appreciate both of you as well as everybody else for your testimony here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Thank you to this panel of public witnesses. I appreciate you all being with us today. Chairman McDuffie, did you have more questions for this panel?
No, I didn't actually. I wanted to follow up, but I think Councilmember Allen just asked the final question that I wanted to ask about unit mixes. If we could just really briefly, Chairman White, just run down the unit mixes for each of the projects. If you could, Mr. Donatelli, just run down the mix of 3s and 2s. I don't think your project has any 4s. And then Ms. Kareem, if you can just talk about the unit mix of your project.
Thank you. As Scotty mentioned earlier, we are planning, I think it's 1,068 units total, right? Yeah, 1,068 units total. We don't have, and we'd be happy to get back to you as this develops, Councilmember McDuffie. We don't have exactly the unit count on these buildings yet. It's coming together.
What percentage is going to be affordable?
2/3 of the units will be.
Got it. Okay.
Which is 712 units of restricted income units.
Got it. And then just briefly, Mr. Kareem.
Yes, sir. So we have 40 of the apartments are 3 bedrooms, 40 of the apartments are 2 bedrooms, 65 are 1 bedrooms, and 35 are studio apartments.
Okay. All right. That's all I have, Chairman White. I appreciate it. And thank everybody who testified.
Thank you, Chairman McDuffie. And again, thank you to all of our public witnesses. We'll move now to our government witnesses, and we'll welcome and swear. The Director of Real Estate with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, who works on the Malcolm X project, Daryl Thompson, the Development Manager for the Hill East project in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. Also, I believe not testifying, but perhaps answering questions, Katan Gada, Director of Hill East in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, and Sarosh Alpadwala, Director of Real Estate in the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I'm told I froze at a moment, but I think.
Yeah, you sound like you're back. I wasn't sure if it was my I wasn't sure if I had frozen or you had, but it was just briefly, and I think we picked you up as you were running down the witnesses, so it sounds good.
Thank you. All right, so we'll ask our government witnesses to come on the screen and we'll swear everyone in together. Welcome to you both. It's the practice of the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities to swear in all of our government witnesses, so I'd ask that you each raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to provide to the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities and the Committee on Business and Economic Development is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Esther Ezra. You can begin your testimony when you're ready. After your testimony, we will ask questions of the Malcolm X project.
Thank you. Chairperson McDuffie and Chairperson White, members and staff of the Committee on Business and Economic Development and Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. My name is Esther Ezra, and I'm the Deputy Director of Real Estate with the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I'm here to testify in support of B24-0953, the Malcolm X Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act of 2022. The approval of this act would declare a surplus and authorize the mayor to dispose of District of Columbia-owned real property known as Malcolm X, located at 1351 Alabama Avenue Southeast, known for taxation purposes as Lot 9 in Square 5914. I would like to thank you for holding today's hearing and recognize the invaluable contributions of the community, particularly past and present members of ANC 8E, residents of Anacostia, Ward 8 Councilmember Trayon White and his staff, and the many other neighbors and community members who have been active in making the Malcolm X project possible. The property consists of a triangular shaped lot of approximately 46,170 square feet in total land area, bounded by Bard High School to the west, Alabama Avenue to the north, Congress Street to the east, and Savannah Street to the south. The property is on a subdivided portion of the former Malcolm X Elementary School campus. The property is within the Congress Heights Small Area Plan. It is near multiple public transportation options, including the Metro's Green Line at the Congress Heights Station and numerous Metro bus lines. The property is within walking distance of St. Elizabeth's Entertainment and Sports Arena and is adjacent to the new Bard High School. It is also within a few blocks of the Turner Elementary School and the shops at Park Village, a shopping center anchored by Giant Food. The district completed a competitive solicitation process to select a developer for the property. The request for proposals issued included the following community-focused requirements: maximize equitable development opportunities, maximize affordable housing, improve the quality of life in the surrounding neighborhood development. The RFP was issued on July 30th, 2020. Responses were due on October 14th, 2020. DEMPET hosted a properly noticed surplus hearing in the community on February 24th, 2021. DEMPET hosted a properly noticed disposition hearing in the community, a meeting immediately following the surplus hearing, also on February 24th, 2021. Due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic emergency, both meetings on February 24th, 2021 were held virtually. Following the disposition hearing, DEMPET received a recommendation and comment letter from ANC 8E on March 11, 2021. On April 20th, 2021, DEMPET selected Congress Park Community Partners to exclusively negotiate for the disposition and development of the property. Congress Park Community Partners includes Banneker Communities as its certified business enterprise managing member. District Development Group is also a CBE, and CHCTDC is a Ward 8 nonprofit. The proposed development is a medium-rise building with approximately 180 total residential rental units comprised of studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, all of which will be affordable dwelling units for rent to households with maximum income up to and between 30 to 60% of MFI. 40 of the ADUs will be 3-bedroom family-size apartments, and an additional 40 units will be 2 bedrooms. The building will also include a ground floor accessible daycare and retail, an office for use of the ANC, and a community room. The proposed development is projected to create approximately 23 permanent jobs for DC residents, over 551 temporary jobs, and approximately $16.3 million in permanent tax revenue over 30 years. DEMPET is proud to move this project forward, providing housing and bringing vital resources of affordable housing, additional tax revenue, and new jobs to Congress Park neighborhood and district overall. Thank you for your time and consideration of legislation. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Let me jump into questions. As you know, DC Code Section 10-801 requires 2 separate administrative hearings as part of the administration's preparations to give away public land. Both hearings must take place, quote, before proceeding to negotiate the disposition of real property, end quote. In this case, though, DEMPET held both hearings on the same night, 30 minutes apart, after you had already put out a request for proposals for the development. Why take that approach?
Yes, thank you. The repurposing of the Malcolm X Elementary School into the Bard High School created an opportunity to develop the surplus property simultaneously with the school. So DEMPET moved forward to take advantage of that opportunity to coordinate the design of both properties.
So it seems like the administration already knew what it wanted to do on this land before we undertook the process to assess whether there was another government use or sort of to get the temperature of the community on what they might like to see there?
Not exactly. So we do an initial sort of due diligence to determine if there is a community need for a municipal use. And the course of doing that, we identified that aside from being right next door to the new Bard High School and a few blocks away from Turner Elementary School, it was also less than half a mile away from the Congress Heights Rec Center, less than a mile away from the Farabee Hope Recreation Center, 3/4 of a mile away from Oxen Run Park, less than half a mile away from Parkland's Turner Neighborhood Library, about a mile away from the nearest police station, 7th District, approximately a mile away from DC Fire Department's Engine 32 and Truck 16. So we were well aware that it was fully serviced by community serving municipal uses. What this timing allowed us to do was make sure that this parcel of land didn't end up being sort of affected by the Bard High School development in such a way that there's no longer going to be a good development opportunity. So for example, we met monthly with DCPS as they were going through the design of the new Bard High School. And there was a point in time where they sent us plans showing the egress, ingress that they were contemplating. One option would have gone right through this parcel and really bifurcated it in such a way that would have really limited the development opportunity. So that's what I mean when I say that.
Okay, so theoretically, developing Bard in a bubble could have meant less housing or in generally fewer options for development in the future if it wasn't coordinated.
Exactly.
Would you say that people in Congress Heights, specifically in this particular part of Congress Heights, are generally happy with the availability of district government amenities in their neighborhood?
I think the fact that we did not get comments at the surplus hearing is indicative of that.
Let me get to that in 1 second. After the closure of the nearby school there are still basketball courts on this site. Is that right?
That the new Bard School has relocated will be, or is in the process of relocating those facilities. So they may physically currently exist there, but they're not part of the Bard High School anymore. And they will be demoed in the course of doing this development.
I don't know whether those are frequently used basketball courts, but I could imagine people in the community might feel some way if they lose them. What, if anything, can we do about that?
Well, the facilities that will be at the new facilities at Bard High School will be accessible to the community after school hours.
Okay. We didn't receive a copy of the transcript of either hearing. What does DMPED typically say to hearing attendees to help them understand the purpose of the surplus hearing?
We explain the purpose of surplusing the property, that the meeting is intended to hear from the community on what municipal uses they believe might be lacking and they might want to see on the site. And it's just an open opportunity to get the temperature of the community.
And do you give them examples? Generally, does DMPED give the community examples of what types of amenities might go there?
No, that's not in. I believe you might have the, you can, if we have not provided a video of the proceedings, we can provide that, but it doesn't specifically highlight any particular municipal use.
Okay, I appreciate it. I don't think we have the video, so if you can send that, I would appreciate it. The concern I have here in the project seems like a good one. My general concern with how we undertake 10801 is that it seems like we know what we want to do already and go to the community and sort of, check the box and do what the 10801 says. But it doesn't seem like we are generally open to making changes. And so my issue is a broader one, not specific to this project. Let me squeeze in one additional question. The packet that DMPED submitted to the council says that approximately 50 people attended both hearings, but that no comments were received at the public hearing regarding the declaration of the property as surplus, which is what you said. Why do you think there was no comment on the surplus aspect?
In my experience, when a community is happy to see development happening on a site, they're less likely to feel a need to speak up. So, it's sort of like doing a survey, right? Who responds to a survey? The people who are really unhappy. And so it skews, and that wasn't the case here.
Okay. Let me pause and turn to.
Can I just respond to your comment before about having a preconceived notion? If you look at RFPs, they don't generally dictate what we want to see. And we do an appraisal that identifies the highest misuse for the property, which is very often consistent with what we get from developers because they sort of similarly consider what would be the highest misuse for this site.
I appreciate that clarification. Chairman McDuffie.
Thank you, Chairman White, and thank you for your testimony. Chairman White already asked a couple of questions about the timing of the surplus and disposition hearing, so I won't rehash that. I would ask, how many responses did DMPED receive in response to the RFP for Malcolm X?
4.
Okay. And in terms of the priority points outlined in the RFP, what made this one worthy of award versus the other responses that you all received?
I believe the hyper-local nature of this group generated a lot of community support for this group in particular.
Okay, and when you say hyper-local, talk a little bit about what that means. We had some earlier questions and responses from ANC commissioners for Hallease, but we did hear from the developer of Malcolm X about some of the things, the engagement that his team engaged in, but I would love to hear it from you all.
Yeah, Omar Kareem, I think, spoke pretty eloquently about this. He's located in Congress Park, and CHCTDC, which is Monica Ray's organization. They are a Ward 8 nonprofit. Finest Jones organization is very local. So they're well known in the community, and you could tell from the response at the disposition hearing when they presented how much the community seemed to be behind having a local organization involved in this project. Okay,
and then talk a little bit about the development team and the thinking around the equity RFP. This team is, what percentage of the equity is with a CBE in this team?
So I believe that that Omar spoke to that too. They are a 70% CBE, with Banneker Communities as the managing member of the single purpose entity being 45%, having a 45% interest in the development team. District Development Group had 25% interest. CHCTDC is has a 14% interest, so that totals the 70% CBE participation. And in terms of equity RFP, if you've taken a look at our RFP that went out, there is an equity participation form as an appendix to that each respondent needs to complete. And based on their response, the team is 100% Black American and individuals who are members of other groups, which a rebuttable presumption exists that the individuals are socially disadvantaged pursuant to 13 CFR section 124.2 124 103B1.
Okay. Thank you
100%
for-
equity RFP.
Thank you for that. In terms of the property, in its proximity to transit, how close is it to a metro rail station, for example? Is it within half a mile or is it beyond a half a mile in terms of proximity?
It is, hold on one second. Don't want to say something that's not perfectly accurate.
I know it's described as transit oriented, but I think
It is, it's very close. It's really close. And I just like trying to find where I have it. Approximately half a mile.
Okay. From Congress Heights
Yes.
Metro. Okay.
Yeah.
And what percentage of the project is, and some of these questions, it might sound a little redundant, but it's just trying to make sure we have a complete record. What percentage of the project is actually affordable, given its proximity to the Congress Heights Metro?
100%. It's entirely at or below 60% MFI.
Got it. And then in terms of the entire, the approximate amount of the units, how many units are we talking about for this project?
180.
Okay. And you said at or below 60%. Can you give just briefly what that breakdown looks like in terms of MFI?
Yes. 30% MFI, there's 45 units, 75 units at 50% MFI, and 60 units at 60% MFI.
Okay. And the DC Code 10801 also requires the developer enter into an agreement requiring that the development team contract with CBEs for at least 35% of the contract dollar volume of the project. We already talked about the 20% equity, but talk about the CBE. Did they submit a CBE plan, and also is their first source plan for this project?
They've executed both agreements.
Okay, and can you talk about what the projected job creation will be for this project, both if you have that information broken down by temporary and permanent?
Yes. It is anticipated to create over 551 temporary jobs through the construction period and 85 permanent jobs, including 23 permanent jobs for DC residents.
Okay. And to be clear, is this disposition occurring or proposed to occur via fee simple or a long-term lease?
99-year ground lease. Since it's a rental product, we prefer to do ground leases.
Okay, and was an independent appraisal prepared for this property, and if so, by whom?
Newmark performed the appraisal, and yes, it was prepared doing as required by 1081, a highest and best use valuation, and then based on the development plan.
Okay, and just briefly with my time winding down, what was it valued at?
It was valued at -46 million based on the development plan.
And Chairman White and I, we hear these types of numbers frequently in surpluses and dispositions, but for somebody who may be less familiar, you might want to explain for the record why a property of this size and type would be valued at a negative valuation.
Yeah, sure. So the residual land value takes the value of the land based on the highest and best use, reduces the value based on the cost of producing what's on there. In a case like this, where you have 180 units of affordable housing, each unit requires a subsidy in order to be built. And therefore, with the subsidy being north of $350,000 per unit, it reduces the land value to the degree it has.
Okay, and just my final question, Chairman White, is open-ended, but for the record, does this disposition comply with every aspect of the law as outlined under 10801 in the DC Code?
This was notwithstanding 10801 as to the surplus hearing. And notwithstanding as to the no build easement, which is also part of this legislation.
Okay.
And then also notwithstanding Landrieu.
Got it. Okay. I don't have any additional questions right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman McDuffie. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Councilmember White, Councilmember McDuffie. Good afternoon. Ms. Ezra, I actually wanted to pick up on a question because I was where you just mentioned Landrieu, because I was thinking to myself, like, okay, when my staff said, oh, Malcolm X, and I was like, wait, BARD is there, but it seems as though there's part of that parcel that we're developing here. And while I certainly wouldn't advocate for us to have two schools sitting side by side, and you listed off, how close Turner was and how close, I forget the other school that you mentioned. The law still is what the law is. And I wanted to make sure that, a couple of weeks down the road here, when this comes to the full council, we're not going to have a bunch of charter school advocates saying we didn't follow the law with this disposition, and even give charter schools an opportunity to put in for this property. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. And so I would love to hear for the administration to say on the record why you felt like for this particular project, it should be notwithstanding Landrieu.
I appreciate that. And to point everybody to it, if you look at the disposition analysis, rather the surplus analysis we provided, the one of the questions, one of the answers to 3C included a discussion about this, and I'm just going to read from it. The mayor has not identified any potential public uses for the property. The mayor believes that the most pragmatic solution for activating this property no longer includes requiring it for public purposes, notwithstanding DC Code Section 38-1802.09 Landrieu Act. The district has determined that it can implement numerous public goals, including affordable housing, opportunities for teacher, educator housing, provision of community meeting space, and neighborhood serving retail. As such, the mayor believes that the best solution is to declare the property surplus and dispose of the property for redevelopment.
Oh, I was on mute. Okay, so I just want to make sure that we have that on the record in case we get questions in the future as we sort of go through this process. While we're already talking about the Malcolm X portion, let me ask you this. To what extent is DMPAD engaged in the conversations? I think in one of the plans, they said they wanted to use some of the space for a healthy food retailer. To what extent is the DMPAD office also engaged with the developer on that particular, I guess, finding a retailer for that space?
So we are not engaged actively in finding the retailer. However, our land disposition agreement includes a requirement for the developer to provide a retail plan, so their marketing and strategy plan for that space, which would require them to pursue that.
Okay. So when would you all have that plan, or when are they required to make that plan available to you?
It's before execution of the LDA, which would occur after this legislation is passed.
All right, so we will look out for that. Switching to Hill East, what assurances do you all have that the developer would adhere to the agreement around the affordable units? Who's not on mute?
Katie, do you want to take that while we get this figured out?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Henderson. My name is Ketan Gada. I'm the director for Hill East. And to answer your question, the developer is required to enter into a affordable housing covenant. So that's the assurance that they're going to be required to meet the affordable housing unit count as proposed in their RFP.
Okay, so, but the affordable housing unit, I think they said, is it supposed to be a third of the unit, units for this bundle designated as affordable?
So the RFP required 1/3 affordable, 1/3 middle income, and 1/3 market rate. So in total, they're going to have 712 income restricted units, and they're going to have 356 at or below affordable units at or below 60% of AMI, and 356 units at or below or between 60 and 120% AMI. And the remaining 356 units are going to be market rate.
Okay, so in terms of this agreement around the affordability, is it just for the apartment style? I think they also mentioned that there would be some townhome style housing on the parcel as well. Does it convey for both?
Yeah, the affordable housing covenant is going to be for the entire development for bundle one, which includes everything.
It depends
on bundle one.
So we don't know if how many apartments versus how many of the other style homes.
I mean, they have that in the development proposal. So the development plan calls for different apartments there are 5 different parcels for bundle one, parcel A, B1, B2, F2, and D2. And they all have slightly different programs. So they have a lot of apartments and then few, I believe about 74 for sale units on parcel A, which is going to be a combination of condos and townhomes.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at in terms of, right, because when we have this conversation about affordability, it's not just about, my desire is not for it just to be about rental. It's also in terms of the ability to purchase. And so where can I find, where would I be able to find that breakout?
We can send it to you, definitely. Not a problem.
Let's do that.
Yep.
I only have 20 seconds here, so it's just, okay. There have been a lot of questions, so I'm going to let it ride and not go over my time. Thank you, Councilmember White.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. Let me run through a few more questions very quickly. The mayor's cover letter and an appendix to the draft agreement say that 100% of the housing units will be for households making 60% or less of the median family income. But DMPA provided my office with a copy of a community benefit agreement with the ANC, which says that 60% of the development is, quote, projected, end quote, to be at or below 60% MFI, and the rest may be for households making up to 80% MFI. Can you explain this discrepancy?
Yes, thank you. If you look at the date of that community benefits agreement, it's from March 2021. And so since then, the development plan evolved with the developer trying to be more responsive to the community requests. If you look at the letter of support and comments from the ANC, it specifically noted that the community wanted to see more truly affordable and specifically highlighted wanting to see less 80%.
Okay. And so it is now 100%
at 60% and below.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is not projected, but there's an agreement. You feel confident that that's what the final breakdown will be.
I do have confidence. If you look at Exhibit C to the LDA that's been submitted, it lays out the breakdown as it is currently contemplated.
I appreciate it. I don't have any further questions for Malcolm X. Let me see if my co-chair does.
I don't, Chairman.
Thank you so much. All right, well, Esther Ezra and Ketan Gada, thank you both very much. Although I cannot promise that other members won't have further questions on that. Let me now turn to the Hill East surplus. The surplus package submitted with this this bill, Mr. Gata, states that the Hill East Master Plan allows for government uses on this land, but you decided against it. What was the basis for that decision?
So we have kind of provided a detailed surplus analysis in the council packet, so you should have that. That explains the surplus analysis in detail. In addition, DMPED basically considered the development goals set out in the Hill East Master Plan, and then we also looked at the potential uses outlined in the comprehensive plan that is designed by OP, and a determination was made that there is no viable public use for the property as a result. And separately, we also worked with and coordinated extensively with DGS prior to our surplus analysis, surplus process that we undertook. And at the end of the day, we were all any use on that site was determined by the Hill East Master Plan, which doesn't preclude any public use if need be.
I apologize. I neglected to let you all give your statement on this. Let me do that now. If you want to provide a statement, and then I'll jump back into questions, and I'll put my time at 5 minutes.
No worries. My colleague Daryl Thomas is going to read the testimony out, and I'm going to be unmuting for the meantime.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that, council member. We're getting it straight here. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chairperson McDuffie and Chairperson White, Council Member Henderson and White and Allen, members and staff of the Committee on Business and Economic Development and the Committee on Government Operations and Facilities. My name is Daryl Thomas, and I'm a development manager of real estate within the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. I'm here to testify in support of B24-0997, the Hill East Phase 2 Bundle 1 Surplus Declaration and Disposition Approval Act of 2022. The approval of this act would declare a surplus and authorize the mayor to dispose of the District of Columbia owned real property known as Hill East Phase 2 Bundle 1, or the property. I have submitted a longer version of my testimony for the record, but for the sake of time, I will read a shortened version today. I would like to thank you for holding today's hearing and recognize the invaluable contributions of the community, particular past and present members of ANC 7F, ANC 6B, residents of Hill East, and the many other neighbors and community members who have been active in making the Hill East Phase 2 project possible. Rich in economic purpose, the entire Hill East campus is only just 2 miles and just a few metro stops from the U.S. Capitol. The Hill East campus invites a mixed-use development that simultaneously serves nearby communities, DC government facilities, and the local demand for retail, residential, hotel, and office uses as envisioned in the master plan, Hill East Master Plan. The property has excellent multimodal transportation access due to the proximity to multiple Metro bus and circular lines, which run along the major roads, including Potomac Avenue Southeast and Massachusetts Avenue Southeast. The Stadium Armory Metro Rail Station is located immediately east of the property, serving the orange, silver, and blue lines. DMPED hosted a properly noticed virtual hearing about the proposed determination of the property as surplus on September 2nd, 2020. On November 20th, 2020, DMPED issued a request for proposals, and that RFP included a number of community-oriented priorities, including but not limited to maximizing equity ownership and majority control opportunities in accordance with the mayor's equity RFP initiative, and including a memorial to Robert F. Kennedy, given RFK's life and legacy in the pursuit of racial equity, economic justice, and affordable housing. On May 20th, 2021, DMPED hosted a disposition hearing in accordance with DC Code 10-801. On June 17, 2021, ANC 7F provided a unanimously approved resolution to DMPED supporting Hill East Bundle 1 LLC for this project. On November 2nd, 2021, DMPED selected Hill East Bundle 1 LLC to exclusively negotiate for the disposition and development of the property. The proposed development of the property follows the guidance of the 2003 Hill East Master Plan, which provides a general land use framework and vision for the redevelopment of the Hill East campus to accommodate public services and neighborhood needs. The master plan envisions the potential for 3,000 new housing units and over 2 million square feet of non-residential space. The proposal from Hill East Bundle One LLC, the developer, is consistent with DMPED's requirements that the teams provide 1/3 deeply affordable, 1/3 middle income, and 1/3 market rate units on the site. This DMPED requirement increased the number of income restricted units above and beyond the requirements of DC Code 10-801 and the Anacostia Waterfront Development Zone, providing a continuum of much needed affordable, middle income, and market rate units. DMPED is proud to be moving this exciting project forward, which will bring homeownership opportunities and provide vital resources of affordable housing, tax revenue, and jobs to the Hill East neighborhood, Ward 7, and the district overall. Thank you for your time and consideration of this legislation. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Glad you finally got that testimony. I wasn't sure it was going to happen. Let me jump back into our questions. So the package that DMPED sent down also lists some government amenities that DMPED described as, quote, in proximity to the property, end quote. But I'm not sure if that's a fair description of some of these. The Southeast Neighborhood Library is one of the supposedly proximate amenities, and that's almost 1.5 miles away. Did DMPED consult DC public libraries when deciding they shouldn't have a Hill East location? And why do you sort of see a library that's, I guess, 1.4 miles away as an amenity in the neighborhood?
Chairman White, so DMPED looked at the Hill East master plan for guidance on what can or cannot be developed on that site, and also looked at all the surrounding uses. And as ANC Chair Tyrone Holcomb kind of very well articulated all the public uses and the public buildings that are in the surrounding. So library is one of the use that is not precluded, but there is no, we worked, as we said, we coordinated with DGS, and there was no request for immediate library on that site. So again, I think as part of the proposal, any private developer can propose that, but
you think a private developer is going to propose a library?
Right now, it doesn't preclude it. Let me put it that way. So
you said there was no request for a library, but did you do an analysis and determine that a library wasn't needed?
So we work with DGS. DGS is the Department of General Services, as you know, manages all the district property and the district needs, and we did not receive any such feedback from them.
DGS wouldn't be in a position to ask for a DC public library. That's not within their facilities. So if DGS was here, they'd say DMPED didn't ask for it.
And again, I think 1.5 miles or roughly 1 mile, everything within a 1 or 2 mile radius is considered proximity. And when the surplus, when the council and the community had, there was a design shed done back in 2002. And basically the community went in detail about what uses they wanted to see on the site. And they considered all the public facilities in the neighborhood as part of that. So that's all very well documented in the Hill East master plan, and the council approved that plan. So we took guidance from that plan for any development on this site.
And you're suggesting that the plan precludes a library?
No, it does not.
It didn't include among what residents asked for.
Right.
How long ago was that done?
It was about 2002, 2003.
About 2 decades ago?
Agreed, yes.
All right. The Kingman and Heritage Islands are also listed as an amenity in proximity to the property. So, I mean, there's an overgrown southern tip of the island that's pretty close, but to actually get on the island, you have to go about 1 mile away. So do we consider this a nearby amenity?
So let me put it this way. I'm guessing you're referring to Kingman Island as a green space amenity that's close to the site. So once the Hill East master plan contemplates 2 green spaces, once fully developed. One is called the Village Square, which is right next to the Stadium Armory Station, which is what the phase 1 is contemplating right now. And the second green space, which is also contemplated, is called Village Square or the park, which is going to be on the parcel E, which is again part of the future development of phase 2. So there will be immediate green space is on the site. In addition, I think what we are listing is there's green spaces and public spaces available right outside of Elise, which is within half a mile or 1 mile radius.
Okay, to be clear though, this is coming, I only mentioned Kingman and Heritage Islands because it's in the package that DEMPED sent and listed it as an amenity, nearby amenity, and a reason to not do a government amenity at the site. And
Any other, yeah, go ahead.
It just doesn't seem that close to me if you actually want to go onto the island. And that was listed as a reason that we didn't need it as a government amenity. The Ethel is a 100-unit permanent supportive housing development currently under construction at Hillies. Is this under construction or completed at this point?
It's closing substantial completion in a couple of months.
Okay, and for this bundle, was public housing considered?
No, as I said, I think we looked and worked with DGS, so there was no request for public housing on this site. In addition to that, that's already contemplated as part of phase 1. And again, I think we also had significant community input from ANC 6B and 7F, and they were happy with Ethel, and there was no additional request for public housing.
Okay, I'm sorry, did you say DGS didn't request public housing?
I said neither did DGS. In addition, we had significant input while we were constructing Ethel. We received significant input from ANC 6B and 7F, and there was no request for additional public housing from them either.
All right, let me pass to my co-chair, Councilmember Chairman McDuffie.
Thank you, Chairman White. I don't remember exactly the day, but the RFP went out, and I wanted to ask about the responses. How many responses did you get to the RFP?
We received 2 responses for bundle 1, 3 for bundle 2, so a total of 5 total.
Okay, but specifically what bundle 1, what stood out in terms of the selection of this project, given the 2 responses you got?
Like, there are a number of things that DEMPED evaluates as part of the RFP selection criteria, but a few things that kind of stood out is this team received unanimous support from ANC 7F. So they had 100% support from ANC 7F. Additionally, as part of the equitable RFP, they had a 50% Black-owned team as part of the development lead on the site for the entire site, which was another criteria. Mm-hmm. And then another criteria which was which we evaluated the past performances, and this team has significant experience in dealing with complicated infrastructure, logistics, and construction ability on a site like Hillies, given their prior experience on phase 1. And finally, of course, the project feasibility itself.
Okay. And I'd love for you to talk about, let's turn your attention to CBEs and jobs. In terms of the job creation for this particular project, can you talk about the first source agreement? Is there one? Talk about what you all anticipate in terms of job creation, both temporary and permanent.
Yes, the development team has entered into both the first source and CBE agreement. The temporary jobs is predicted to produce about 2,819 jobs over the course of all the construction, and approximately 103 permanent jobs.
Okay. I think I read where you all expect the district to receive more than $111 million in permanent tax revenue over the next 30 years as a result of this project. talk about how you all reach that number. What kinds of things go into that sort of analysis? I mean, that's a large number. I know it's over 30 years, but I think it might be important for people to understand how you all are contemplating these types of projects.
Well, we provide Dr. Ahmadi the development plan, and he runs a program which returns the numbers and those predictions back to us to use.
Let me jump in, Councilmember,
Sure.
and add some color to that. So I think the number that you see is a result of two things. It's the direct tax benefit that district's going to get out of the proposed development. In addition, is a multiplier effect. So just for example, every single person who's going to be on that site, living on that site, will probably go out and spend. So there'll be sales tax generated in the surrounding neighborhood and through the site as well. So it's a direct and the indirect multiplying effect that predicts that number.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. The development is pretty large development and comprised of several parcels. And I think it's important to talk about what the district can expect in terms of revenues as a result of this sort of disposition. This is a 99-year ground lease, correct?
Yes. For most part, and then I think that one side which is for sale.
Yeah, I wanted to just draw the distinction. Could you make sure that there was some background noise? You could just clarify what is what in terms of lease versus fee simple?
So there are 5 parcels. All of them are except for 4 parcels are going to be 99-year lease, except for one which is a for sale, which includes condo on it. That's going to be a for sale.
And that's parcel A?
That's parcel A.
Talk a little bit about parcel A and what's planned for that disposition for parcel A specifically.
So parcel A contemplates about 74 condominium units or ownership units. And I think the goal was to basically increase home ownership as part of the proposed development. And that was one of the feedback that we received from ANC 7F and 6.
Okay, and any portion of those affordable?
Yes, sir. 25 of those are affordable and 25 are middle income.
Got it. And in terms of the, was there a appraisal completed for this project, this parcel?
Yes.
Can you talk about the appraisal and what it was valued at?
The appraisal was commissioned by Newark per the 10-01 requirement. And based on the development program, the appraised value of the land was negative $219.9 million.
I'm gonna need you just to go in a little bit more detail about how you got to the negative evaluation, similar to what the question I asked about the Malcolm X disposition.
Right. As previously explained by Ms. Ezra, I think there are a number of different methods that are outlined in the appraisal, but it's the residual land value, and then they contemplate based on the residual land value, they look into what's being built on it. And since there's significant affordable housing, that's kind of backed out of the land value. And that's how we reach a negative land value on this one, since there is 712 income restricted units.
Okay. And do you all envision that this development is going to require any sort of district subsidy, either in the form of like tax relief or infrastructure financing? It's obviously a large site. I imagine there might be challenges with infrastructure. Can you talk about that?
Not at this time. We haven't received anything from the development team.
Okay. And what's the expected delivery date for this project? And I see my time is run.
We're looking at October of 2031 for all 5 parcels to be complete.
Okay.
Chairman McDuffie, I only have one other question, so I'll go ahead and finish.
Okay.
Do it.
I think I might have another one. Give me 1 second. Actually, you know what? your indulgence briefly. Just given the extent of this development and the number of parcels involved with it, I'm curious as to whether or not there's any expectation that the developer is going to need any variances or any sort of zoning relief on the project scope.
I think the proposed development is in accordance with the Hellis master plan and the regulations.
Okay.
And they are required to go in front of the zoning commission for review, design review.
Okay, and does this project comply with all aspects of 10801? If not, which aspects are you seeking notwithstanding language around?
Comply with all aspects of 10801.
No, I'm sorry, except for the,
5 years.
it's going to require over 2 years. We're seeking for a 5-year disposition period.
Okay, and just the last thing, if you could just talk about why you need a 5-year disposition period.
Simply because we have 5 parcels and multiple buildings on those parcels, and they just would not be able to close in a 2-year time period.
And rather than having to come back and continuously ask for relief, which council has had to do in the past, and we ask certain questions, I think it's important to make sure the record reflects that request now. So I don't have any additional questions, Chairman White. I appreciate it. And thank you to the witnesses.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you, Chairman McDuffie. My last question, what did DGS weigh in to say regarding what government amenities might be needed at this site?
Can you repeat that question, Councilmember?
Did DGS weigh in regarding what government amenities might be needed at this site?
Yes, we coordinated with them prior to the surplus meeting that we scheduled, and we never received any feedback. And they were very well aware of the Hellis master plan that's on that site. So,
could you send us that correspondence?
sure, we can definitely.
Sure.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you for being with us today. I don't have any additional questions. I do want to note, though, that I want to thank our public witnesses as well. And I want to note that anybody who wants to still submit testimony can submit written testimony that will be made part of the official record. Anybody who's interested in doing that can email testimony to our committee by emailing facilities@dccouncil.gov, facilities@dccouncil.gov. The record for this hearing will close at the close of business on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. If anyone is interested in updates on the issues we're discussing today or on other issues that my office is working on, please feel free to sign up for our office newsletter at robertwhiteatlarge.com. We will update on these issues. With that, the business before the committee is concluded. The time is now 2:09 p.m. I want to thank again my co-chair for this hearing, Councilmember McDuffie. This joint hearing is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Chairman White.
Thank you, everyone.